Good afternoon, welcome to another exciting edition of The Pulse here on Joy News. My name is Elton Brobe. This afternoon, we give you a breakdown of the budget statement presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We'll be joined by an economist to digest the issues presented by the Finance Minister in the 2024 budget and economic policy of government for the ensuing year. Meanwhile, the minority is warning that the 220 million budgeted to deal with floods caused by the Akosombo Dam spillage is woefully inadequate, stressing it is just a drop in that ocean.
Plan as the flood waters recede.
Mr. Speaker, government has budgeted an amount of 220 million to support the relief phase for the communities affected by the Akosombo spillage.
And later, former First Lady Theresa Akuffo laid to rest after a state funeral graced by dignitaries from around the world, her as a woman of sacrifice, devotion, humanity, and resilience. We also hear from her husband, former President John Agyekum Kufuor, who said he helped him to survive a 15-month jail time after an unexpected coup in 1972.
Commander for almost 8 weeks. Denial of any contact with family or the outside world at Ashford Prison. This angel of a woman, to my amazement, would survive the ordeal of raising 5 children on her own. In my absence, Abba gave birth to our 5th and last child, Kofi.
These and more here on The Pulse. My name is Elton Brobe. It's a pleasure to be with you as always. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities, Digilu, affordable, safe sanitation for all. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV 125. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and myjoyonline.com. We have more to deal with in the post-budget discussion right after this. Welcome, this is The Pulse here on Joy News. My name is Elton Brobe. Now let's start with the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Minister yesterday. Today we begin with a quest to break down details of the budget statement presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The country is expected to reach a debt relief deal in the coming weeks from its official creditors to qualify for disbursement. How are the policies in the budget crafted to ensure a stable economy? Ofori-Atta announced that the country had turned the corner and will now witness higher growth and lower inflation. More on this when we engage development economist Dr. Domfe on this. Right now, we'll speak to break down the numbers for you when Isaac Kofi Adjei joins me in here. But here are some highlights from yesterday's presentation on the floor of Parliament by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Mr. Speaker, tax reliefs. Our approach to tax policy since 2017 was to give significant relief to the private sector until expenditure pressures from 2020 required a more aggressive approach. It is important to note that in the short term, fiscal sustainability requires that we improve our tax ratios significantly, otherwise our long-term competitiveness will be eroded. As we all know, our country's 13% tax to GDP ratio is far below our peers. Our target is 18 to 20%, and we are on course with 16% hoping to be achieved this year. In that regard, it is difficult to implement all the structural reforms and tax reliefs needed to immediately lower and or eliminate certain tax handles. However, I assure this august House that we have heard, we believe in lower taxes as a government for industry, and we are working others aggressively with the GRA and to be cemented with the Standing Committee of the Mutual Prosperity Dialogue. Mr. Speaker, further to the above, the following reliefs have been prioritized for implementation. To extend, Mr. Speaker, the zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on import of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to extend zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to zero rate VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant import duty waivers for raw materials for the local manufacture of sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant exemptions on the importation of agricultural machinery equipment and inputs and medical consumables, raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry. Mr. Speaker, a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties will be introduced to simplify administration. To address the negative externalities of plastic waste and pollution, government will review and expand the environmental excise duty to cover plastic packaging and industrial and vehicle emissions. Mr. Speaker, the Stamp Duty Act 2005, Act 689, has not been reviewed since an enactment in 2005. To realign the rate with current economic realities, government in 2024 will review the rates and fees for stamp duties. The bands subject to ad valorem taxes will be expanded, while the specific rates will be reviewed. Mr. Speaker, a simplified tax return will be introduced as a means of promoting voluntary compliance as part of the modified taxation scheme for individuals in the informal sector. This approach will make it easier for taxpayers to fulfill their tax obligations to the state. Total revenue and grants is projected at 176.4 billion Ghana cedis, 16.8% of GDP, as we move towards our 18% target. And this is underpinned by permanent revenue measures, largely tax revenue measures amounting to 0.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure is projected at 226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022. This large decrease comes from the combination of fiscal consolidation efforts of 4.9 percentage points of GDP, reflecting an adjustment in revenue by 1.1 percentage point and primary expenditure by 3.9 percentage points of GDP. The cedi has stabilized against the US dollar since early 2023. With a year-to-date, Mr. Speaker, a year-to-date cumulative depreciation of 25% compared to 54% in 2022. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, the cedi has only depreciated by 6.4% on cumulative basis since February 2023, compared to, Mr. Speaker, 53.9% over the same period in 2022. The stability of the cedi largely reflects the positive impact from the restoration of economic activity, including robust economic growth, improvement in the current account position, improvement in forex liquidity following the IMF ECF inflows, Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program, reduced speculative forex demand as market confidence rebounds. Mr. Speaker, on social spending, the government's flagship free senior high school and TVET programs continues to create and expand access to secondary school education in the country. In a generation's time when we have a more educated population which sustains social mobility and cohesion, we appreciate the significance of these decisions. In the year under review, we continue to support, Mr. Speaker, far from this, in the year under review, we continue to support a total of 448,000 first-year senior high school students, bringing the total beneficiaries for 2023 academic year to 1.3 million students. In 2024, the implementation of this transformative initiative will continue. Mr. Speaker, we continue feeding grants for over 7,500 students in special schools and capitation grants to all public basic schools across the country.
A lot of figures there by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, looking into 2024 and beyond. The issues about social intervention programs for the vulnerable in our society, the hope that government is seeking to instill in the greater populace for 2024. And of course, a lot of figures, projections, government hoping to achieve whatever going into 2024. These are the issues that we're going to break it down for you. And then later, we'll have Dr. George Domfed, Development Economist and Senior Research Fellow at the University of Ghana, join us to try and make sense of all the things that were said by the Finance Minister. But what really are the issues that should dominate discussion, that should attract your attention? Let us break it down to the simplest of forms for you to appreciate the 2024 budgets. And my colleague here, Kofi Adjei, joins me here in the studio. Kofi, so break it down for us. What really are the issues?
Austin, before we even go to the smart wall, let me start with some key important figures that we need to talk about. Because usually budget is summarized in three forms: your expenditure, your revenue, and the deficit, and probably how you are going to finance the deficit. So let me break that one down first. So in 2024, what we know is that government is hoping to spend 226.7 billion Ghana cedis and raise 176.4 billion cedis.
So that's a funding gap right there.
Absolutely.
Over 60 billion Ghana cedis.
So first, look at it this way. If you just do the expenditure on commitment basis, then you have a budget deficit of 50.3 billion Ghana cedis. Now, if you add clearance of arrears, then the deficit increases from that 10.3 billion cedis to now over 61 billion Ghana cedis. So that is what we are going to deal with in 2024. If you look at the tax revenue, let's say the revenue that we are hoping to generate in 2024, about 77% of this is supposed to come from tax revenue. If you look at the figure, it's around 135.92 billion Ghana cedis. That is the amount of money we want to raise from tax revenue, 77% of the total revenue. Non-tax revenue is around 14 or 15 billion cedis. Oil revenue, the same 15 billion cedis. Grants, around 3 billion Ghana cedis, and other revenues around 7.56 billion cedis. Expenditure, very important, because once you start talking about revenue, you need to map it to expenditure.
Right.
Expenditure for 2022, just like I said, is over 226 billion.
2024, you mean?
2024, 226 billion. Now, if you break this down, two line items will catch your attention, as they've always been.
Clearly, compensation is one of them.
Absolutely. Compensation of employees.
Yes.
And we know labor is going to enjoy an increment in base pay. How much is government going to spend in 2024? 63.68 billion Ghana cedis.
And represent in terms of percentage?
Yeah, it's if you combine that with interest payments, we are looking about 67% of the total revenue already gone.
67%.
Absolutely.
Leaving 33 to do all other things.
All other things. So if you spend on compensation for employees, which includes wages and salaries and other remunerations, and then also interest payments, which in 2024 will be around 55 or 56 billion Ghana cedis.
But we are seeking to restructure our standard.
Exactly.
Why are we still committing so much money to paying interest?
You need to budget.
On payment?
You need to budget. This around, let's say, $6 billion.
Right.
You've still not been able to get the needed financing assurances from your external creditors. You need to budget.
So if we are able to get the needed financing,
then this free space becomes available to you.
This becomes savings for us.
Yes, about $6 billion if you're able to do it at both the domestic and external. And mind you, we can't restructure all our debt.
Right.
So we will probably pay, but not as to the level that we've actually budgeted. Now let's go to the smart wall and do some analysis. And first start with the famous statement from the budget. Let's look at that one. The famous statement from the budget where the finance minister said that he has actually turned the corner. So I want to read. It says, I want to stress at this juncture that Ghana has paid its dues, has turned the corner and getting back on track. Getting back on track, maybe he's looking at indicators like inflation. He mentioned the CD that has not really depreciated if you compare it to 2022 when it could move from just 12 CDs to 13 CDs, discrete movement. So the finance minister says, if you look at some key indicators, then it's safe to say that Ghana has actually turned the corner.
And he provided reasons why he came to this
exactly.
conclusion. One of them is the fact that government had taken a decision to seek the support of the IMF to stabilize the economy. And we got that deal. So that is a plus for him. That is turning the corner.
It's a plus.
Inflation has come down from somewhere around 50 to now 35.2.
Good, 54,
that is a plus.
54.1.
That is a plus for them. There appears to be some stability in the currency regime. That for him is a plus for him. That is also turning the corner. For him, generally, the economy appears to have stabilized. Growth is expected to ease up slightly. That for him is also turning the corner.
Yes, because, I mean, you have growth right now above 3%. It's way above what we actually projected that we're going to do in both the first and second half of the year. So very positive news for government. But the next slide will tell you a different story, which probably people are now talking about it. If you look at the next slide, which is the 8 tax exemption that we've all been talking about. 8 tax exemption.
In fact, I spoke to some manufacturers this morning off record, and they are so excited. They are operating in the one district, one factory enclave. Some of them are into fast-moving consumer goods. And for them, this is a welcome news because it helps them to save. It helps them to, make some savings
down on cost
on some of these. And so that for them is a plus. I don't know what to make of what the finance minister announced yesterday, even though we are also hearing from Guta that, what they wanted to hear, it didn't come true.
Let's look at the next slide, maybe to tell a different story. We still have some of the 8 taxes. Next slide. Let's look at that one as well. Yes. So we've been doing some analysis for you to look at some of the key fiscal performances in 2023. So 2023, between January and August, so we are talking about the first 8 months of the year, this was the targeted, total revenues and grants.
82.2 billion.
That's provisional data, 82.2 billion.
And we're able to recover 79.1.
79.1. That's a negative. It means that there's a vast difference between what we projected versus what we actually got. Now, this is because some key tax components or handles like the e-levy, we've been speaking about it, which we've not been able to get what we were looking for. Even the pollution tax, I've looked at the first and second quarter data. We are not really getting what we actually projected to get. Another thing. So total expenditure really good. We've been able to cut down. We said we're going to spend 121.8. We've ended up spending 104. Positive news over there. Positive for fiscal balance as well in the first 8 months of 2023. Now let's look at other key issues where we've looked at real GDP, inflation, which right now the target is somewhere around 15% in 2024. Elton, do you think we can achieve 15% inflation?
Well, we are 35.2%.
Yes.
And we are some have said that we are being overly ambitious in terms of the target we set for us at 15%. But we came from a single digit and then we went to the 54%. It is possible. It means that we need to do a lot more to bring it down.
Yes.
And maybe when we are joined by the economists, we're able to tell us what government intends to do to ensure systematic reduction in inflation. But at 35% to 15% by the end of 2024, that looks something that will be difficult to achieve. But let's see how.
But it looks possible anyway. Do you think? I think it looks possible because, from 54, just like you said, to now 35, if we work with the IMF on board, I'm sure that 15%.
But this may look sexy for me. But then, look at food inflation and how that is hitting the ordinary Ghanaian.
Yes.
So this may look quite good.
It looks too aggregated.
But in terms of how you are relating to it and how that is hitting you in terms of food inflation, at around 44%, I mean, it is hitting hard on household.
We were speaking about the top 20 items that we spoke about the last time, and you see some consumables that we use almost every day at home, like sanitary pads, like baby food, dog meat. People is a delicacy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Even our banku is
exactly. Flour and condo and all of those things, all recording inflation rates above 50%. Even common tea bag has an inflation rate around 91%.
Yes.
And that's, if you do the disaggregation, you realize that the 35.1% or 0.2% inflation rate looks a bit blanket, and at the disaggregated level, that's when you see how people are actually coping with the situation. Let's look at other key, issues in the budgets, and then one other slide. Let's look at that one as well. Okay, so this is where we've spoken about this already. We spoke about the revenue here, comparing it to 2023. So what you see in blue is 2023, and in yellow is 2024. And so, Elton, just look at this in terms of expenditure. In 2024, we are hoping to spend this amount.
226.7 billion.
And if you compare it to what we have in 2023, there's some huge variance.
Yes, we are spending more.
We are spending more.
Even though we are seeking to cut down on expenditure.
Computers should be more than 20%, right?
Absolutely,
yeah. 30%.
Yes.
And just look at this one. In terms of the fiscal balance at, commitment basis, last year or this year, projection was 47. This year, 53 billion Ghana cedis. Some 3 billion cedis difference. Let's go another slide and see what we can also see in there. So we've been speaking about the external sector, where, the finance minister says that Ghana's external sector performance will largely depend on the conclusion of negotiations with the country's external creditors.
Yes.
It simply tells you that once we are talking about Ghana's external sector in 2024, we are actually hinging it on agreements and negotiations with external creditors. Because we showed you that in the budget line items, there are two components. Especially, we are talking about interest payments. If we are not able to reach an agreement with external creditors, we are supposed to pay close to $3 billion next year in terms of interest payments and charges alone. We've not spoken about amortization. We've not spoken about other loans that we've taken, some of which are collateralized. And so this is why it's important, because once these guys, external creditors, they agree that they'll give us the needed financing assurance, it tells you that we have that fiscal space to breathe in 2024. Less pressure will be placed on the cedi. We will not see the cedi depreciate.
No, but again, the most important thing that we need to point out is that you made mention of the fact that if you are unable to come to some agreement with our external creditors, we are likely to pay over $3 billion to those we owe. Then it makes sense why the IMF will insist that you need to secure an agreement with your external creditors before you come to us for the release of the second tranche. Otherwise, whatever money we'll give you will end up going to pay for your debt. And then the effects you want to have in your country may not be felt. So this is very crucial.
Yes, exactly.
And the thing also about this is that this discussion has dragged on for so long, for so long. And every day we hear that in the coming weeks we're going to reach an agreement. China is on board. They have set up the OCC.
Been on board for a long time.
Exactly,
have to reach
it's unclear when an agreement will be reached. Because take it or leave it, even though government has made it clear that they are not working with the timelines, is this $100 million is crucial.
In fact,
it's crucial for
whether you like it or not. You have to work within a certain timeline because you are talking about an economy. And if you take time out of an economy, what are you trying to talk about? Because you are talking about period, fiscal years, and expenditure, or actually what you need in a fiscal year is actually, contingent on you reaching an agreement with your external creditors. You have a balance of, mind you, the reason why we've gone to the IMF is because of our balance of payment issues.
Yes.
We can't afford that $15.5 billion. We can't generate that on our own. And IMF and World Bank and all the other development partners coming on board, they can't also give us $15.5 billion. One country, no. How much would they give to the other countries? And so they are aware that the amount they are giving to us is not enough. That is why they need the commitment of other creditors that we annually spend huge sums of dollars in just the payment of interest on our loans. It is the reason why it is important
that this is secured.
Exactly.
Well, the finance minister makes the point that talks quite advanced, and he is hoping that in the coming
I'm very happy about that.
Yes, in the coming weeks, an agreement will be reached so that the IMF board can now consider the release of the second tranche for Ghana.
Let's go on the other slide and see what we are. Well, so we are looking at the exchange rates. These are the key components that will determine Ghana's exchange rate fate in 2024. I'm not the one saying this, is in the budget speech. It says that, well, if we are able to get the IMF-supported program, which we have, that is going to help us, the cedi, stabilize. Then we are also expecting some inflows from the cocoa syndication loan.
Yes.
Want to say anything about that?
Of course. I mean, the finance minister again yesterday said that if the syndication or syndicated loan is secured, that will also help the economy.
Yeah.
But even as we know, the cocoa board is struggling to get the banks to raise the needed financing. And
it's all because right now, government is asking its commercial creditors. These are banks; they are commercial creditors. To
of course, we put ourselves
yes.
in a position which we are saying that it will be difficult for us to honor our debt obligations.
Yes.
That's what everybody is skeptical in terms of giving you money.
Of course, and they also be looking at the credit ratings. That where are you in terms of, and then your ability to pay back and all of those things. But the finance minister also said that the second tranche of the IMF is also very important in stabilizing the cedi, mining inflows, and this one, continuation of the gold for oil program. Very, very important.
Yeah.
Where government has indicated in the budget speech that they made some significant savings by introducing this program plus other programs and policies. So it's important.
The claim is that the reason why we've also witnessed some stability at the pumps is because it can be attributed to the
Gold for
Oil program. And so I mean, in terms of what it looks on the books, it will sound exciting and convincing, but what really on the ground is what people are interested in. And I guess that very soon we'll bring on Professor Domfe to take us through if this is indeed a set of policies that will take us from the state of our economy to a better place. Those are the questions that will be asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
The professor.
Let's look at one more slide and see. So according to the finance minister, we have successfully concluded, this is important anyway, the domestic debt exchange or program and making steady progress on external debt restructuring.
Steady is not enough. You have to make quick progress on this.
So Elton is saying that we don't need steady, right?
We need quick progress.
Quick progress, and very emphatic. We need, actual restructuring.
Exactly.
We don't need assurance. I'll give you today, the next day I won't give you, all of those things. We need to be able to bring all our creditors to the table, speak to them, tell them our problems. And our proposal should also be feasible.
Sure.
I mean, because you are asking for 20 to 40% haircuts. How much should Zambia and other countries who also need haircuts ask for? They will all be watching Ghana, and they are looking at what the commercial guys will do for Ghana. And when they also go there to ask for forgiveness, they'll say, I mean, you did this for Ghana.
Do the same thing
for us. Also do for us. So it's important. For me, this is the most important word for me. Successful conclusion of the domestic debt.
Yes.
We are hoping that maybe next year we don't see government coming to say that
let's do another one.
Come for another haircut or come for another exchange. We are hoping that the exchange will end here, and we'll trust government where it has been successfully concluded. Let's look at the next slide, which talks about the Big Five exchange. So this is the DDEP that we've been speaking about. Now, we've enjoyed some fiscal space, but where did they come from? Okay, so the first leg of the DDEP that we did, the target was to free up 90.7 billion Ghana cedis. We ended up getting 87. It means that the participation rate was around 90 billion. So if you go through all of these, about 5 of them, you see the savings that we did. And this is why the Bank of Ghana actually made a lot of losses. You see Bank of Ghana non-marketable bonds. They targeted 70.9
billion.
And they restructured everything. 100% participation. So
yes.
Those are some of the key highlights in the 2024 budgets. I'm sure if you go on my Joe Online, we have
everything is there. I'm sure, you can follow
10 takeaways.
And it makes sense for yourself on the matters. Kofi, thank you very much. Let's now analyze the issues presented by Kofi again, of course, presented by the Finance Minister of the Republic, Ken Ofori-Atta. And I'm sure from the Finance Ministry workers' perspective, he did a great job, and that's how come he was welcomed with such applause when he made his way to the Finance Ministry after the presentation in Parliament. But what are the real issues? Are these the policies that is going to help the country get out of the current economic doldrum to the place where people can say that we are out of the woods and now we cannot look to the future with some kind of positivity? Dr. George Jomfe is a development economist and senior research fellow at the University of Ghana. He joins us via Zoom for us to make sense of some of the things that we were told yesterday. Doug, you're welcome to the pulse here on Joy News. And if you can kindly unmute for me so that we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, sorry. And let me say good afternoon, my brother.
Yes, good afternoon.
I've really enjoyed your discussions.
We appreciate that very much. Let me pick your initial reaction to the 2024 budgets. The Finance Minister described it as including victory. Is that the same feeling you get?
Yes, looking at my brother, and let me first of all begin by saying very good afternoon to our cherished viewers and listeners as well. So I will pick it from where he took it as a Minister of Economics. We all know that 2017, things were not all that well with Ghana. At the time he became Minister of Finance, we had quite a number of challenges. We haven't forgotten where we came from April 2015 when we had to subscribe to an IMF extended credit facility. And we were doing well under the program, especially when he came to take over as the manager. We did really well until, unfortunately, after 2019, other things happened, and we couldn't, as it were, keep up with the performance. If you look at inflation that has become a problem, at the end of December 2019, we were doing 7.9%, and the 7.9% happened to be the lowest since March 1992. That is 28 years. So for 28 years, you have recorded the lowest inflation. The economy was growing steadily. I should say we were doing well. Debt to GDP ratio had been contained well below 70% threshold. So you were not in debt crisis, I should say, even though the vulnerabilities were very real. But I think looking at our performance, there were serious indications that we were on the right path. But coming to the year 2020, 2021, 2022, all has not been well with us. We have struggled as an economy, especially in the year 2022, when the GDP, debt to GDP ratio was unsustainable, way above 70% threshold. The economy was growing at 3.2%. That was okay, but at the beginning of the year, we saw $1 being exchanged for 6 cedis 20 pesos. But in October, you would exchange $1 for 17 cedis, and that was really very bad. It affected fuel prices. At the same time, global price for fuel, oil went up, and it really affected us here. At the point, you needed to buy a liter of diesel for 23 cedis. It wasn't good at all. And because of this inflation, the year ended with inflation of 54.1%, the highest in over 25 years. And so if today we have seen inflation dropping to 35.2%, we have seen the economy growing at the first half of the year at 3.2%, especially agricultural sector doing well around 6.2%. you can only say that compared to last year, we are doing well, and that we are back on track, getting to where we were in the year 2019.
But Doctor, even if you want to still look at the figures as we have it now, you went back to 2023, and then the inflation has come down from 54 to now 35.2. The exchange has also come down from around 20 to now 12. At the pumps, we've seen reduction in fuel prices, but they are still high.
Yeah, really, I agree with you. They are still high because, you see, apart from the exchange rate that has been stabilized, and also the global market prices that have also witnessed some stability. We shouldn't forget that we have 7 levies, placed on the fuel. And so definitely we wouldn't get it what we want. And now government is not in control. The sector has been deregulated. And so the BDCs, they are private individuals who go out there to buy oil and come back to Ghana to sell. And so, yes, we are not getting it as we want, but compared to last year, I think things are far better. And these days, we hardly see
we appear to be losing Dr. George Domfe because of connection issues. We'll try and re-establish contact with him, and then we'll have some few questions for him as we digest the issues presented by the Finance Minister in the 2024 budget. Dr. Domfe, can you hear me? Right, so we don't have him. We'll re-establish contact with him, and then we'll still have some few questions that we need to ask. The Finance Minister presented what he considers to be a victory budget. There's hardship in the country. That is an undeniable fact. The question is, the policies announced in the 2024 budget, are these the ones that will help stabilize the economy and then bring some relief to the Ghanaian public? These are questions that we need to ask and we need to find answers to. Right, so we'll deal with that, plus other issues here on the budget. The minorities already been talking, clearly giving an indication of the kind of position they will present when the debate starts on the floor on Monday. They will start the post-budget workshop tomorrow, Friday, conclude it on Sunday, and then the debate on the budget will start on Monday. And then we also will be presented with the comprehensive documents covering the 2024 budget, the estimates for the various ministries. Our government hopes to raise the additional 12 billion cedis, and by what means. These are some of the issues that will dominate the discussions on the floor on Monday when the budget debate actually starts. MPs also have the opportunity to now scrutinize the allocations to the various ministries, departments, and agencies for 2024. How government seeking to raise additional revenue to finance this project. We've just walked you through the revenue target for 2024, and that's about 174 billion Ghana cedis. 174 billion Ghana cedis. Yet government is seeking to spend over 222 billion Ghana cedis. That will leave you a funding gap of over 60 billion Ghana cedis. How is government seeking to fund this gap? How is government seeking to fill this gap? The over 60 billion cedis that it has identified as whole in the budget. These are concerns that everybody have, and these are concerns that we need to find answers to. But you are watching the pulse here on Joy News, also live on all our social media platforms. Soon we'll also take you to the Ashanti region, where mining activities are expected to take off within the Yinahini Forest Reserve in 2024. We also will bring you the state funeral that was organized in memory of former First Lady Theresa Kufuor. The burial service, the Thanksgiving service, and the burial itself will take place in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, tomorrow, Friday, all the way till Sunday. But we're at the State House where the state funeral, I beg your pardon, took place. So we have all of this coming your way right here on the Pulse on Joy. We'll take a short break and return.
Introducing the Kensington Heights at Airport City Kumasi, the largest modern smart city in West Africa. The Kensington Heights is your bridge to the skies, where you can access direct flights to international destinations, including the USA, UK, and Europe. Imagine a world where convenience, comfort, and investment opportunities converge seamlessly. The Kensington Heights offers an incredible opportunity for families, investors, and businesses worldwide. Enjoy spacious and beautifully designed luxury suites, executive suites, one-bedroom apartments, and 2- and 3-bedroom penthouses, complete with world-class amenities and easy access to the new Kumasi International Airport. All units are on sale now, starting at $69,950. Be a part of the future of Kumasi and reserve your property today. For more information, visit our websites www.thekensingtonheights.com or www.airportcitykumasi.
It's incredible! Bang on target!
Every day, people have money emergencies. Mom, I need my school fees emergency.
Mommy,
chop money emergency. Emergency. Catch it. I'm your rent. Emergency. Now, there's a new emergency number in town. More money, challenge and enjoyment. At the top life we got. Dial star 770 hash for all your money emergencies and chop life.
Dial star 770 hash for money emergencies and get easy and quick access to your money, loans, and other banking needs. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile. Is the money too small?
A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more?
Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana in 2016 pledged to ensure free senior high school education for every Ghanaian child. Under the leadership of the President and the Sector Minister, Honorable Dr. Yao Osei Eruchum, the first-year enrollment has risen from 308,000 in 2016 to over 500,000 students being enrolled each year under the policy, making over 1.6 million children enrolled under the policy as of 2022. The Transformation Agenda series on education exposes you to the varied and various achievements of government in the area of education, delving into the policies, interventions, and infrastructure development that has occurred under the leadership of the President. Be my guest this and every Tuesday as we bring you documentaries from across the 16 regions of Ghana on Joy News between 6:30 p.m. and 7 o'clock p.m. Transformation Agenda series on education, reimagining education for national development.
Do you know that unforeseen medical emergency can drain your savings in these tough times? And as medical expenses increase by the day, why not pass that on to us at ACE Medical Insurance? Simply get a health insurance plan from ACE and enjoy a whole year of not worrying about hikes in medical expenses. ACE Medical Insurance, the new face of healthcare financing in Ghana.
back to deal with the budget issue shortly. But first, now, let's talk about mining. Because mining activities are expected to take off within the Nyinahin Forest Reserve in 2024, pending cabinet approval of a mining lease and parliamentary ratification. Mineral resource estimated conducted by Rockshare, a private entity that will partner GIADEC to mine for bauxite in the Forest Reserve, estimates that the Nyinahin Forest Reserve is endowed with some 375 million tons of bauxite in Three Hills alone. Presenting a report to President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House, Deputy Minister in charge of mining, Meku Duka, said all is set for government to carry through the controversial mining operations in the Forest Reserve. Latif Idris was at the Jubilee House and has the rest of the story.
The initial plan to mine in the Nyinahin Forest Reserve became controversial the very first day the idea was mooted. The justification has been that it will accelerate Ghana's quest to build a viable integrated aluminium and steel industry. However, the pushback has been massive. Members of the Nyinahin community, civil society groups, and environmentalists have spoken strongly against the idea. Traditional authority within the Tunnel of Fame Enclave in 2020, in a statement, accused GIADEC of not being transparent as far as plans to mine bauxite in the area were concerned. But it appears government is having its way.
The Nyinahin Range has 10 hills. Pursuant to the MOU, Mr. President, Rockshore was assigned 3 hills, that is hills 4, 5, and 6, to undertake mineral resource estimate in these areas. The purpose of the MRE was to assess the quantity and quality of bauxite resources available at these sites in accordance with international principles and standards. Mr. President, I am this afternoon, on behalf of my minister, happy to report that the MRE has been completed and now we know the quality and quantity of bauxite in these areas. And we are by this report happy also to indicate to you that GIADEC has collaborated well with Rockshore, and these 2 teams or institutions have the highlights of this report, and they will be presented soon to you, Mr. President. Suffice to say that the completion of the MRE paves way for us to move into the mining stage of the operation and present a promising opportunity for building an integrated aluminium industry here in our country.
CEO of GIADEC, Michael Ansa, said the quantity of bauxite identified in the Nyinahin Forest and Range meets international standard and gives his outfit the confidence to approach financial institutions to help fund some projects.
Historically, we estimated that we had in the region of about 250 million metric tons of bauxite in the 3 hills we're talking about, that's hills 4, 5, and 6. Following the work that we've done now, we've been able to establish that we have a minimum of 375 million tons of bauxite in those 3 hills. 375, so a 50% appreciation. The other side of this is, having put that whole report together and identified the resource that we have, the next stages would be how we continue to develop it into a fully bankable project. We've done the development of all the project agreements relating to this. We're finalizing all of that. We're going to be establishing a joint venture company that will be owned by the partners, as in Rockshore and GIADEC.
It is estimated that Ghana is endowed with some 1 billion metric tons of bauxite across the country. However, the environmental menace created by activities of small-scale miners has triggered what has been a spontaneous opposition to the exploitation of bauxite, particularly in the Nyinahin Forest Reserve. But President Akufo-Addo believes a successful implementation of the project will justify his decision to allow mining operations in the area.
You know, our role is to provide you the maximum support that you need to make sure that this whole thing becomes a reality. I think that if we're able to do that, it would justify completely our thinking, the whole GIADEC concept, that we will find a state vehicle that will bring together all the bauxite resources of the country under one roof, and therefore strengthen the hand of that entity to enter into these various transactions and things.
It can now be said with a level of certainty that mining would take place within the Nyinahin Forest Reserve despite the opposition and the controversy. What remains unclear, though, is the footprint that will be left behind years after the mining company has packed out of the forest reserve. Latif Idris, Joy News, Accra, Ghana.
Well, some may consider this as good news because one thing for sure, if this is off the ground, jobs will be created and the country will stand a better chance of getting some foreign exchange from the mine of bauxite at Nyinahin in the Ashanti region. But is this a welcome news? Let's explore this matter. And joining us is Hannah Owusu-Kranton, Associate Executive Director of environmental NGO WASA, Association of Communities Affected by Mining. Welcome. Hannah, you're welcome to the post here on Joy News. And if you can kindly unmute for me. Yes, if you can kindly unmute for me so we can hear you.
Sorry, thank you very much. I just want to correct us that WACAM is just WACAM. We changed our name in 2008, so it's just a name.
It's just a name.
And not an acronym.
Right, so yes. The matter on the table is the all claim, given by the president for some work to start on bauxite mining at Nyinahin in the Ashanti region. The agency tasked with, doing the feasibility studies, they've established the number of tons that can be mined in the area. Should we welcome this with songs of praise, or we should be skeptical?
Well, thank you again, and then good afternoon to all the listeners. I think when they did the feasibility studies, what they didn't do is the socio-cultural, environmental impact of destroying the significant forest reserves. And that has been the major problem that we all face. In fact, work in the environment space indicates that you destroy this pristine environment, and the cost is about 3-4 times if you have left it. And I like the review of the journalists who talked about the footprints after the operations. Nobody can recreate pristine environments. And that's why when they started talking about mining in protected forests, some of us were against that. It started in the PNDC era, and then they developed some guidelines for operationalizing it, and it wasn't very legal. But then with the LI 2462, which was passed in November 2022, it's giving some legitimacy for an illegal activity. That's what I'll say. Because if you look at the Minerals and Mining Act 703, 2006, Section 3, it's explicit that mining is available on every land, except when the land is covered by an act or otherwise. And what I mean is that once you have a legislature saying that this place is earmarked as a protected forest, as a forest reserve, as a globally significant biodiversity area, then it is not available for mining. And so for the state to develop an LI based on what I don't know, what law I don't know, because if you look at the hierarchy of laws, the Constitution is the Constitution is the basic or the primary law, then followed by the policies, and then you come to the Act, and then the LIs are developed to reflect what is in the Act. And so this LI that has been developed to allow mining in protected forests. Some of the forests that we are talking about will lose about 80+% of the forest. So Nyina for me is not good news. It has been there. We knew that it was rich in bauxite when I was young. I'm getting to my 70th year, but it has not been mined because we're considering other factors. The water sources, the environment, and what the environment can contribute even to the development of the economy. We are looking at the biodiversity and how if we destroy the biodiversity, we cannot recreate biodiversity. It's not possible. They talked about the business biodiversity offset programs. It's not workable because it will just leave the lands for plantation purposes, and plantation cannot be quoted to pristine environment. So we are just looking at the economic indicators.
The mining
looking at the
of bauxite in the area. I'm saying
exactly.
that I sense your opposition to this whole arrangement.
So we are looking at the economic indicators,
exactly,
and not the other social, cultural, environmental indicators.
Some will argue, if I may come here, some will argue that mining can never take place without some kind of a destruction to the environment.
Yes, it is a destruction to the environment. It's not just we are not talking about the trees. We are not talking about the butterflies that they keep on arguing. We are talking about sustaining life for the present generation and also for the future generation. We are talking about how we protect our water bodies because these pristine environments are the areas that we have our water sources. We are talking about the hills. 3 hills are going to be destroyed. What is it significant to the micro and macro environments within the areas? How is that influencing agriculture, for instance, because Ghana primarily is an agricultural country. So we are just looking at the economic indicators. We are taking economic decisions in matters where we should consider human being, we should consider the per capita, not only in terms of just the fiscals, but also the human development indicators.
It looks like government position on this matter is quite clear. I mean, based on the successful completion of the minerals resource estimate, the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation appears to have, now be moving to a stage where they may be looking into the banks to get some kind of support to make it possible for mining to take place at Nyinahini. What can be done to protect the environment such that we do not import the challenges we are having in the mining of gold to now Nyinahini?
Oh, well, it's just obvious that once you tackle, in fact, the production forests and other secondary forests were available for mining. And look at the devastation that we experienced. We have not cleared that. We are still battling with the waste, which is permanent. We are still battling with the groundwater pollution. We are battling with distorted rainfall patterns. We are battling with polluted water bodies. About 90% of all water sources in the country are deemed to be polluted, either from agricultural operations or from mining, or both. And now we haven't dealt with all these things. We are look at even the destruction to infrastructure, the roads, the road networks. What has bauxite done to the road network from Awasu to Takoradi? We have not been able to build that road because even as government is pushing resources into the road construction, the trucks are moving. We are having the bauxite trucks, we are having the manganese trucks moving on these roads. And so government is sinking so much money into some of these areas, and we are not seeing the significance. And so we continue to talk about, the rents that we are realizing without doing a real cost-benefit analysis to even see, even if we take just the economic indicators, it will be positive or negative. I bet you, if we do the cost-benefit analysis of only the economic indicators, you realize that it could be negative. But we are just focused on mining and nothing is stopping us. But then posterity will judge all of us that we have not been fair to the people of Ghana because many people in Ghana are not even aware that some of these things are happening. And even if they are aware, they do not understand the implications to their lives and livelihoods. They do not understand the implication to the lives of future generations and the destruction of the biodiversity. We don't have the knowledge. And so, yes, we can take the political decisions, we can take the economic decisions. At the end of the day, because we failed to look at development in a holistic approach, we are not going to have that development. We need just money to spend, and that is all. It's not about development, because that cannot constitute development for Ghana.
In the events where there is no turning back on government position on this matter, let me seek your recommendations on what kind of protective gears we can put in place to ensure that even as we mine for economic gains, we are also protecting the environment, we are protecting the people who live in and around these mining areas, we are protecting their water bodies, such that mining and the perceived destruction can be done such that there will be harmony in between.
Yes, if we have a solution to that, then I would have reclaimed all the lands that we've mined by now. But you see, we are just interested in mining, and so nobody is listening. Governments should have started with a dialogue with the people around. How do we do it collectively? Because one mind cannot decide for all of us. We need the minds of everybody to tell us that, yes, if you move into those forests, at least this portion you can play with. But the point is that in protected forests, once you touch a bit of it, the integrity of the forest is destroyed. And so we have a lot of lands around. We have a lot of minerals around. We've mined gold for all these years. We are mining bauxite. We are mining manganese. We are mining sand. Some countries are just boasting of sand, and they are developing because they've done that in a very progressive and holistic approach. We are privileged to have all these. Now lithium is coming. We have everything. But because we are doing it based on political decisions, based on economic decisions, and not looking at development as a sustainable venture, we are not breaking even. And so we have to sit down and look critically. We have enough destruction around us to be destroying what is left for the future.
Most of these contracts, yes, most of these contracts will eventually end up in Parliament for ratification. What do you suggest MPs should do when these matters come before them?
You see, MPs, I started by saying that when the guidelines for mining in protected forests was developed, it began with PNDC,
yes,
moved to NPP, moved to NDC, continued with NPP, then back to NDC, and then it's been like that, NDC, NPP. And you know, recently, civil society organizations, we did some stakeholder engagement in Alisa just last week. We invited the opposition, we invited the MPs in government. None of them came. We invited regulators, they didn't come. And if we are talking about good governance mechanisms, which would seek the consent and then the minds of people, citizens, in the management of our resource because government, the state has been entrusted to do so on our behalf. Minerals are entrusted in the state to be mined to protect us. Then if you are my caretaker or something like that, you seek my mandate. We are refusing to do so because they think they have it all. I bet you a time is coming when citizens would recognize this right. Now, many people do not even recognize that the state owe allegiance to us and that they should do things that will promote our interests. And that is when good governance would be in force. But now they have a field day because the politics of the day is not about development. The politics is party A, party B, and what we can do within our 4 years, our 8 years. And so they are disregarding the owners and doing it in a very uncivilized, I should use that way. And at the end of the day, we are all going to suffer, including the politicians. They should listen to citizens.
So we have a government agency that is responsible for regulating the sector, the Minerals Commission. Now, some few days ago, somebody had the courage to say that he was going to mine at the Kakum National Park. Now, the Minerals Commission took a serious view of it, issued a statement saying that they've not given anybody such license to undertake such activity at the Kakum National Park. Do you get a sense that these agencies that we have in place and their sole responsibility is to protect the resources we have, and even in the event where they have given people license to exploit our resources, they do it within the confines of the law? Are they really up to their mandate from where you sit?
This is what I'm saying, that if you look at the Minerals and Mining Act, that is supposed to guide the operations of the industry. Section 3 of the Act, I'm talking about 703, 2006, is explicit that any land is available except when the land has a legal something backing.
But to put it bluntly, there is no law that restricts anybody from mining in a forest reserve. There's actually no law.
Well, I'm talking about a law in Ghana. That's a Minerals and Mining Act. If they should go and look at Section 3 of that Act, that any land that has been declared a protected forest, a national park, whatever, is not out for mining. And that the Section 4 even talks about the states reclaiming more lands as forest reserves if they think that we are having dwindling forest reserves. And so the Kakum National Park issue that was promoted and now scrapped from their repository. Yeah. It's funny because it's not only the Kakum National Park. About 15 protected forests, globally significant forests, 3 globally significant forests, and then the others had been either given out for mining or they have requested for exploratory license. And Kakum was listed until the civil society groups, including WACAM, we've raised those concerns. And then they said, oh, we've taken it off. Why did they post it there in the first place? So it shows you that you can't have an agency that is supposed to be promoting mining, regulating mining. And that's why we keep on saying that we should have a very clear mandate for regulators and for promoters of mining. If the regulator is promoting mines and at the same time regulating mines, definitely you have some of these contradictions happening.
So we should have two agencies do this job. We should have clear boundaries between who should protect and who should regulate.
Exactly. Because the regulator cannot be promoting mine. How can you promote and regulate something that you have brought up? You have given the license for a company to mine, and then you are going to regulate that company. It doesn't work out well. Their job is to promote mining as they are promoting. And so we should have a body to regulate mining. And EPA, that is supposed to be regulating the environment, has now developed this LI 2462 to allow mining in protected forests. I mean, you don't understand what we are doing as a state, as regulators, as what we are confused. That's what I'm saying. We are confused when it comes to environmental sanity, and then our quest to make money immediately to do what I don't know, because the economy, yes, I agree, we are in crisis. We need to sit as a people to talk through it properly. Things that you can do, very basic things like, yes, consuming locally produced foodstuffs, for instance, rice, for instance, and then cutting down on the import of rice, the import of meat and things like that. How to gradually do so, just to ensure that we are food sufficient within some space of time. That is what will bring development, but not just mining resources from protected areas because we want to show that we are doing A or B. No.
Let me ask a final question so that I can let you go. So now that we appear to be at a road where there appears to be no turning back. I mean, listening to the president, he appears to have given his tacit endorsement to the report that was presented to him by the authority. And then now they are looking to open up for financial institutions to help, or for those who are interested in investing in this area to come forward with their proposals so that they can be guided to go and mine at Nyinahin. What should we look out for? Are we just creating another illegal mining that is yet to, be a concern for us. What should be the learning going forward, especially if we are to speak to the president, the members of parliament, as this matter is likely to dominate discussions going into next year?
Well, what I'll tell the president is that either he is not conversant with environmental issues, and that's why they can allow mining in protected forests, because yes, you can mine there, but then you cannot protect the integrity of that forest. Once you touch it, it's lost. And so that is, we either mine or not mine. And well, we can mine, but then it's also for citizens to also look at it critically and take their decisions, their political decisions, because government is taking political decisions, and citizens can also take our political decisions to ensure that we do not allow our leaders to just destroy. And unfortunately for us Ghanaians, we don't have a choice now, because as I said, it began with PNDC, NDC, MPP, NDC, MPP, NDC, and now MPP. And so it's as if our voices are lost. It is now time for citizens to really sit and consider whether we follow politics blindly, that I'm for party A, I'm for party B, or we look at issues that is linked to our own sustainability and see, yes, we can destroy the forest today, but then what will be the consequences of destroying the forest today? And these are issues that citizens should sit up and talk about freely. I think that should be the beginning of the discourse. And as for the government saying they will mine, yes, we can do all the things. We can make the noise. If they are bent on mining, they will mine. It will be at a cost to them, definitely. But then I'm not sure when a new party comes over, they are going to even listen to what civil society groups are talking about today. And so it's time civil society becomes stronger. Look at issues of development and not from a partisan angle, and then take decisions to influence the political decisions of politicians.
Thank you very much, Madam. Right, I appreciate your time very much for this discussion, Madam Anna Granton from WACAM. We'll be looking at the government's approach to mining bauxite at Nyinahini. Yesterday, the authority presented its assessment to the president, and clearly the way is cleared, and there could be some activity that Nyinahini Ashanti region in the coming weeks, months, for some mining to take place. But let's stay a little longer on mining-related issues, because residents are leading a crusade against any form of mining to protect their farms and the beautiful forests and water sources in their community. This is captured in the concluding part of Poison for Gold, a documentary produced by Erastus Saridonko, AISFs.
Atronsu is a small farming community in the Bibiani Anyaso Bekwai municipality. It is home to this beautiful forest and its serene water source, the Atronsu stream.
Perhaps this is one of the most cleanest water sources flowing through a very green, serene forest on my trail across Ghana. This is so clean, you can drink it. And this is the lifeblood of the farmers, the cocoa farms, pepper growing farms, other farms across this community.
Series of attempts have been made to give this land out for community mining schemes, but the community says no. 80-year-old Georgina Awotwe and others want any form of mining to be resisted.
Did you say you are bringing community mining here? These young ones are the reason we live and work. The mining will bring teenage pregnancy and truancy. The children will not go to school. Look at the devastation caused by mining on the Dunkwa Road. Look at how the buildings have been affected. Look at the polluted water bodies. Children are drowning in pits. We are saying we don't want any community mining. Give us better jobs, not mining. If the government wants peace, they should reconsider the decision to bring mining here. We don't want it.
Patrick Jaffet Danso, a farmer, and some residents are in court fighting to prevent the destruction of this green ecosystem.
If it is community mining, at least it is the community members who are to engage in it. But here is the case, they said two companies, Gido Mining Company, Aramzad Company, they are from somewhere that we don't know. The address can be found in Kumasi. So how come it is community mining? Now, the case is at the High Court. So until what we are seeking for, we want injunction to be placed on this community mining because we are not ready because of the consequences that we foresee. So no matter what, even if they are going to kill us, they should kill us and then take the land.
Me and my brothers and those who love the town, we are fighting. Even, I will say again, if they will kill us one by one, we shall fight until they stop what they want to do.
And the producer of that documentary, Poison for Gold, Erastus Ayodonko, joins me via Zoom. Erastus, you're welcome to report here on Joy News. Yes, of course.
Thank you, Elton.
All right.
Thank you.
And so, again, let me congratulate you on your new post or your new claim to fame, Journalist of the Year for 2023. But let's talk about this matter. Quite a very interesting and a very serious issue. My understanding is that this community mining concept was instituted to do away with illegal mining, to regulate their activities in a way. So why is the community that you spoke to, the community members that you spoke to, why are they so skeptical about what the community mining would do to their livelihood and, of course, the environment? They should naturally be embracing it, isn't it?
Well, so to answer your question, I think they are taking a cue from, lessons drawn from somewhere. And if you remember, so they are taking a cue from lessons that they've drawn from areas that community mining or so-called community mining, if I should put it that way, have wreaked havoc in. And a typical example is the Akun community mining in Takwa. And if you look at, when I went there, I asked the unit committee members and other people, they said, well, we are not for it, we are not consulted, the mining is not for us. So you look at the many community mining schemes that at least I have seen, you ask the local people and they feel they are not part of it. It's not a community mining, it belongs to certain individuals under the cover of community mining. And many of them, you look at the devastation, you look at how they conduct their business in those schemes, and you see that it breaches a lot of environmental laws. And so they have seen it, as they tell me, and they do not want the consequences that come with it. And in fact, if you look at that serene community, you look at the forest, you look at the waterfall, the ecosystem, so serene, it supports their farming. They get a lot from that. They are content with that. And they think that the consequences of the mining to that serene atmosphere will be bad. And so they want to maintain their farming. They want to enjoy the benefits that they get from the forest that they do have.
They are simply against any form of mining in the community. Is that the case?
Yes, that's what they tell me. And their issue is simple, as you heard them say. They think that the mining, as they have seen it across the country, do not follow laid down regulations. They are uncontrolled. They are irresponsible in nature. The various agencies that should be monitoring and supervising are not supervising it as they should. And so they are afraid that when it comes to their community, they wouldn't have the kind of environment that supports their mainstay, that is agriculture, at the moment. And that is why they don't want it at all within the community.
But from your experience traveling across the country, especially in mining areas, are they going to be successful in this fight, where even forest reserves protected by Forestry Commission officials sometimes are invaded by illegal miners, and there's very little they can do? Would they succeed in this fight?
I have seen areas like Mampo, where the chief says, I'm not supporting any form of mining within this area. And so far, Mampo has not witnessed any form of mining. So I look at areas where they've been able to resist and say, no, we don't need it here.
And we are losing Erastus Donkor there, connection issues again. I'm sure he will join us soon. For us to conclude this discussion on this community that have taken a strong position against any form of mining, community or large-scale mining in their area, because they've looked at the devastation down to some areas and they've taken a cue from it, and they're saying that enough is enough. We'll not anybody to step foot into our community. Erastus, you are back. As we conclude on this matter, I was asking how successful are they going to be in being resolute in this stance that they've taken? Right. So still we are having difficulties re-establishing contact with Erastus Donkor. But I guess we can move to other stories now. And Christians across denominations, professions, and various interests will be meeting to evaluate the impact of political parties on the democratic experience of Ghana in the light of citizens' aspirations and the constitutional obligations imposed on the state or government. They will analyze political party impact on various facets of national life, including the church, the three arms of government, the public and private sectors, the media, as well as on citizens and national development. Advocates for Christ Ghana is leading this, and who better explain this concept than Adam Senanu, the convener of Advocates for Christ. And we have Adam Senanu join us via Zoom. Mr. Adam Senanu, good afternoon and welcome.
Good evening from where I am.
Great to have you here on the Pulse. Advocates for Christ. Tell us more about this and what is informing this drive.
Well, Advocates for Christ Ghana is public policy advocacy Christian group, a great movement of professionals, pastors, parents, youth, and Christians of all walks of life, seeking to have a permanent voice on national issues and to bring our expertise to bear on influencing what goes on. We have members across probably about 4 continents at the moment. We're about 350 to 400 people. And we just want to make sure that when issues come up, we bring our minds to bear on them. In this particular instance, over the last 4 years, we've had an annual National Christian Forum where we pick a topic of interest and then get into it. This year, we felt that election 2024 was going to be crucial. And so the topic is election 2024, political parties' impact and how Christians should vote. Our survey shows that over the last decade or so, increasingly, political parties here to focus much more on their own interests than the public good. Although Article 1.1 and Article 35.1 talk about sovereignty being in the people and that governments are put in place to promote the welfare of the citizen, we don't have the feeling that that focus is what we are seeing. So we want to assess what has worked, what hasn't worked, what can they do better, what kind of changes do we want to see amongst our political parties heading into 2024. We will look at their impact on the church. This evening, Reverend Dr. Fred Digby, Senior Pastor of Calvary Baptist, will be speaking at Action Chapel on their impact on the church. Tomorrow, we'll be looking at impact on media as well as private sector. And then the following day, we'll look at impact on the three arms of government and then on citizens and national development.
So help me to understand this concept very well. So is it a case that you come up with a resolution and then you try to get the political actors to abide by it or go by it? Is that the case?
Excellent question. So by the time the speakers are finished, the last part of their presentations will always have recommendations on what we should do differently to improve where we find ourselves today. We'll pull that into a communique, which we'll forward to the political parties and ask them whether they will align or commit to these, aspirations of the Ghanaian people. And that's our way of saying we are letting you know what we believe your manifestos for 2024 should capture. What are the kind of things we expect you to do? Yeah, so at the end of it, there'll be a communique and there'll be opportunity for political parties to sign on and say, yes, we also commit to this social contract of agreeing that these are things we also want to stand for. Yeah, so absolutely, that's a very important aspect of how we'll be concluding the engagement.
But Mr. Senator, what really is the problem here? That you have to come under this umbrella for Christ to get your voices heard or to get the politicians to act in a certain way?
Well, statistically, you will note that the Christian community is the single largest constituency in Ghana today, 71.3%.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, so there's a sense in which we believe that when it gets to elections, the politicians understand that numbers makes a difference to the vote. And so it probably is the most strategic way of getting political parties to rethink whether they want to change or not to change. Our key concern at the moment is that we recognize that many of the political parties are spending high sums of money. We are not quite sure how they are being funded. And the likelihood is that when they get into government, it's going to be more, the focus is just going to be much more on how we make our money back. So it's more of political entrepreneurship and business. So there are changes that need to happen. We also recognize that quite often our presidential candidates don't appear to have the final say, maybe in the first year or two. But beyond that, the political parties appear to call all the shots. They decide who gets which ministerial or deputy ministerial or board positions. They determine which policies will fly or not fly. Their posture to commentary by civil society and other groups. It's a political party values thing. What they believe in begins to influence what we see as government. And so there's a need to take a keen look, a critical and clinical look at the political party structure, what values they hold, how they are funded, and begin to make certain recommendations that hopefully will ensure that moving to the future, we can enjoy the full dividends of our democratic experience.
Right. I guess these are very crucial matters that we can even explore in the days to come. I just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Adam Senenu, for joining us to explain the rationale behind this, crusade for Christ, that you are getting the political parties to go according to some dictates that you will put before them. And we'll follow this ongoing workshop where you come up with some resolution to get our political parties to abide ahead of the 2024 general elections. Now, in bringing today's edition of the Pulse to a close, former President of Ghana, John Agyekum Kufuor, says former First Lady and his wife, Theresa Kufuor, helped him to survive a 15-month jail time at the Osaford prison after an unexpected coup d'etat in 1972. The revelation is contained in his tribute read on his behalf at the forecourt of the State House, where a burial service took place for the former First Lady. He says Abba, as he affectionately called her, was a woman of sacrifice, devotion, humanity, and resilience. There's more in this report.
Many high-profile personalities are here at the forecourt of the State House to pay their last respect to the former First Lady. Amongst them is the President himself, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and his wife, the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo. We also have the Chief Justice here, the Speaker of Parliament, former President John Dramani Mahama is also here with his wife. Many others from across the political divide are also present here. Reading a tribute on behalf of the state, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo said, Madam Teresa Akufo contributed a lot to Ghana's healthcare and education.
She played an instrumental role during the administration of her husband. A noteworthy impact she made during her tenure as the First Lady was her advocacy for the implementation of UNESCO's free, compulsory, universal basic education program for kindergarten children in the year 2007 through government's white paper on the educational reforms. The objective of the policy was that all Ghanaian children at the age of 4 should receive 2 years compulsory early childhood development, ECD education, before entering primary 1. In line with her support for underprivileged children and mothers, inspired by her compassion and empathy, she was involved in numerous charitable and philanthropic endeavors.
For the tribute for the children, he says his mother was a compassionate but strict woman. They nicknamed her Severe, the Law, and many others.
Mom was warm and gentle, loving, calm, and controlled, poised, very punctual, kind, and compassionate. She was very hardworking and a disciplinarian to the core. Right from her childhood, Mom was tough on personal hygiene. Hey, Mom she was strict on politeness, manners, and being considerate by cleaning up after yourself. You knelt down and prayed often, Ma. You fasted also. You were strict and had rules which were hard to follow sometimes. One of the earliest rules was that we couldn't claim ownership of things that we found in the house compound because it was your house. Everything, including the mangoes on the tree, belonged to you. If you were, we had to ask permission. The disciplinarian in you earned you many coded nicknames such as Severe, the Law, Chief Justice, and a few more. But somehow, you always knew it was you we were referring to.
In a tribute by the widower John Ejekum Kufuor, he stated that Teresa Kufuor, his wife, was his emotional and psychological support during his incarceration after a military takeover in 1972. He's been talking about all the support that he enjoyed from Teresa Kufuor.
Abba had a very confident personality that fitted in with ease everywhere we went, and which also allowed her to cope under the most challenging of pressures. In 1969, I got elected as a Member of Parliament of the Second Republic for Atrima in Wabieja in the Ashanti region. I then also got appointed as Ghana's Deputy Minister of Foreign.
Get early access to Macy's Black Friday specials and save big on gifts for everyone on your list right now while supplies last. Like winter-ready women's sweaters, $12.99 to $19.99. Fine jewelry, 60 to 75% off. And cozy up to comfy throws, just $9.99 to $39.99. Plus, get your online order even faster with store pickup, now at Macy's. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Foreign Affairs under the premiership of the late Professor Kofi Abrefa-Busia. So, our young family had to relocate from Kumasi to Accra. Abba, to my delight, took our evolving life in her stride as she adjusted effortlessly and with confidence to our new milieu of a life in national politics and diplomacy. Between 1969 and 1971, with both Abba and me in our early 30s, our lives seemed to be on an upward trajectory. But this was to be truncated with a shocking and unexpected coup d'etat on 13 January 1972, which arrested practically all the members of the government and threw us in prison. Our world was crushed. 54 of us, including cabinet ministers, junior ministers, and some members of parliament, would remain in jail for a minimum period of between 12 and 15 months each. Having initially endured incommunicado for almost 8 weeks, denial of any contact with family or the outside world at Ashford prison. This angel of a woman, to my amazement, would survive the ordeal of raising 5 children on her own. In my absence, Abba gave birth to our 5th and last child, Kofi.
I've also been speaking to former President John Mahama, who says Ghana is poorer for the loss of Theresa Kufuor.
She was a great person. She was a good first lady. She was very respectable. And Ghana is a poorer for her death. And so we wish her the perfect rest. And we also extend our condolences to the former president.
Did you have the opportunity to meet her while she was alive?
Several times.
Well, you can see the kind of compliments we were paid to him, his contribution to the life of the nation, and the way she touched so many hearts, and the wonderful work he did for the people of this country. So the turnout here, I'm not surprised at all that we have such a huge turnout for her funeral, and we are going to Kumasi to continue.
And Marshal Ababa brought us that state funeral service for the late Theresa Kufuor. Remember that this weekend, the final funeral service and the burial rites, together with the Thanksgiving service, will be held at the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. But that's our show for today's edition of The Pulse on Joy News. We shall be back tomorrow, same time, to be another exciting edition. Have a great day. My name is Elton Brobe.